One of the arguments used by creationists against evolution ad nauseum is, if you tell your kids they're animals, they will act like animals. By the same logic, if you teach your kids about germ theory, they'll try and infect you, or if you teach them about gravity, they will push everything over. Evolution is descriptive, not prescriptive. Before you write a prescription, though, you have to know the problems in detail. Also, they never say what animal they'll act like. A dog, if trained, can do nearly anything on command, or if not trained, it can viciously maul you. A cat can be loving one minute, then poop on the floor the next. A dolphin that can solve puzzles or want sex all the time? An elephant that can paint or maul you? Why is acting like an animal bad? Depending on the situation and environment, they can be great traits to admire. Actually, that sounds extremely human. What they actually mean is that kids who are told they're animals won't bother to control themselves because, hey, I'm a monkey, I can fling poo at people. Yes, you can, but there will be repercussions. All of your actions do. We control and train our inner beast to prevent consequences. If an animal kills a human, it gets put down. If a human can't control their inner animal, they get locked away or put down, depending on the country. The difference is our enlarged neo-cortex riding around on top of our oversized monkey brain and body that allows us to have some semblance of control over ourselves. The neo-cortex rides on top of the mammalian brain, which allows for empathy and parenting instincts, which rides on top of the reptilian brain, which is the fight or flight, baser emotions, and basic functions. What we are is all of these things. When we're alone, we are the most rational creatures on the planet. Our animal brain is quieted and relaxed, though it still gets in the way of our thinking. We just can't realize it because the animal brain is part of us. However, we can reflect on ourselves when we're alone. We can debate with ourselves on complex topics. We can think about things in new ways. It is when we're stimulated by outside forces that we go into animal mode. We are not proactive creatures, we are reactive. An example of this was at a women's rights rally where there was a pro-lifer there who was jutting in and out of the crowd, and the police who was supposed to keep him away was ignoring him. I didn't want anyone to confront him because I knew it was just feeding the trolls and giving them too much attention. My girlfriend directly confronted him though because she wanted him to go away, and he calmly began using horrible statistics. The argument got more and more heated and switched to the Bible, and I began using the Bible to point out his flaws. And he first insulted my intelligence, then told me I was never a real Christian. Something flipped inside of me, and I just went off yelling the atrocities actually discussed in his book, including being able to rape your war bride after you killed her parents, and he refused to even register that in his head as being part of the Bible, claiming I was quoting the Quran. The cop came up and said I needed to calm down, and I just left, shocked at myself. I'm always composed. As it turns out, the identity of Christian was so conditioned into me that it's now an emotional trigger I was unaware of. I should have been tipped off by my video called A Response to Ex-Christian I Don't Think So. Unless you have the opportunity to have yourself in a particular situation, you'll never know some of your underlying conditioning. And unless you have time alone, you won't have the ability to self-reflect and fix the conditioning. What usually happens instead is that you have an ideal of yourself, and when you enter a situation, you react the way you're conditioned. Then if it goes against your ideal self, you'll have cognitive dissonance, and that messes with your head and makes you feel like crap from guilt. So instead, most people immediately generate a rationale for why they did that. Since memories are rewritten every time they're accessed, this new rationale gets placed into the memory, and they completely believe they acted of their own agency. One has to be a programmer. You spot a flaw and work to correct the programming alone or in a safe environment, and then test the patch in the real world, then adjust from there. After enough trials and tweaks and awareness, you can fix an irrational conditioning that goes against your ideal self, moving your real closer to the ideal. However, without the tools and understanding to do the programming, you can't do anything. There are probably more people who are self-programming illiterate than computer programming illiterate in this world. In this series, I hope to discuss some of the tools that many may be unaware of, though it will take a lot of extra research on my part. For most of our existence, the concept of the individual was foreign to most people. The community was most important. This is because, before the Industrial Revolution, the group was essential for survival. It was only until mass-produced cheap goods came about that one could survive and thrive on their own. In tribal times, being alone was not common, so there was little time for self-reflection. Our superego rarely came out, nor did our inner dialogue. Our ability to reflect was limited. People ate together, slept together, and worked together. The only people who were able to spend time on self-reflection were people who followed the monastic orders and relied on begging and donations, or they built up a complex network to be self-reliant, and even then they were not alone. Being alone was an amazing experience for many of them and felt so different from normal. They had time to reflect instead of react. Their inner dialogue came out, and their creativity did as well. It allowed their feelings of spirituality to flow. Unless we have children these days, we now have more time and energy to self-reflect than ever. If used correctly, we can make our own behavior and potential much higher if we know how. When I lived alone, I always was appalled at people who made stupid decisions or how they reacted to people or situations. Now that I'm living with someone and around them a lot, I find my inner beast reacting in ways I never thought I would, like being grumpy more often. I'm involved with new situations I have never before encountered, and I have less time alone to reflect. And when I do have alone time, I mostly just want to veg out and not think. So my self-programming is much slower than it used to be. Being social reduces your time and energy to self-program, but not being social enough prevents you from testing the efforts and changes you made. We can train our inner beast to act reactively in the way that we want it to, instead of how we were programmed growing up. Our monkey can react more the way you want it to, and you'll be a more ideal you. Sadly, it's complex to learn and takes the time needed to do so, so you have to weigh the cost versus reward of doing it. If it's important enough, you have the ability to change in you.